CNET issues mass corrections for AI-written articles. Why did they do this? CNET has put a hold on their use of AI to write articles after publishing over 70 AI-generated articles, primarily on finance-related topics. An additional thing, just in case you don't know, finance is one of the highest CPMs you can have, also known as those are a lot of the articles they're going to make a lot of money on. The first articles were published in November of last year under a CNET Money Staff byline. Only by clicking on that byline could a reader learn that the article was artificially generated. Despite the claim that these articles were thoroughly edited and fact-checked by a presumably human editor, over half now carry corrections. Almost every time we've talked about OpenAI, I've brought up the confidently wrong thing. I can't believe they actually just did this, but anyways. Mistakes included confusing basic finance terms and making basic financial math mistakes. That's another thing. Dan and I were talking about this before the show. People keep on trying to get ChatGPT to do stuff it's not made to do, and then they're like, LOL, dumb. And it's just like, what? Stop making it do math. It's not made for that. What are you doing? Oh, my goodness. Anyways, I'm not surprised that was a problem. There are tons of examples of it being bad at math because it's not made for that. Some corrections stated that CNET replaced phrases that were not entirely original. Okay.
Plagiarism.
So, yeah. That would be interesting to see the exact examples of that. The editor-in-chief stated CNET plans to continue using AI tools into the future. Of course they are. And to be clear, I'm not against that part. You just need to vet it properly. Like the in quotes, thoroughly edited and fact-checked by an editor. Yeah, it should have just actually been. It sounds like it wasn't. Maybe someone tried to make their job easier or something. I'm not sure. Meanwhile, BuzzFeed announced that they will be using AI to create entertainment content, but stressed that their newsroom will remain human-generated and stressed that they will not replace existing workforce with AI. That's the right way to do it. Online publisher Medium has announced AI-generated content will be allowed if clearly disclosed, while many publications and writers that use Medium as a platform have already banned AI-authored works. There have already been cases of AI-enabled theft, rephrasing, and republication of copyrighted work. Lots of it.
Yeah.
Just so you know. A technique that could be used to evade traditional anti-plagiarism tools. One of the problems... Sorry, go for it.
I was going to say, as I'm going through my Google News feed, I will often read an article on a site that I wouldn't have otherwise visited because it's just in my Google News feed, where I go, okay, this was very clearly 3 articles basically mashed together because it's super redundant in a way that no decent human writer could ever... I just navigate away immediately as soon as I figure out that it was AI generated, but it's a lot of them.
And so something I want to make clear here is I am very interested in the idea of ChatGPT regurgitating basically word for word something that someone else has written. I'm looking for examples of that. If you find examples of that, somehow get them to me. Don't email Floatplane support, by the way. We had...
I'm not aware of this.
That keeps happening.
Okay. Luke is not Floatplane support.
No, that's Joe. And Joe's very nice about it, but it takes up Joe's time. And there are lots of other things that Joe could do.
Like supporting customers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So...
Like Joe's job.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. So what I'm not saying here is that the plagiarized content got spat out by ChatGPT naturally.
Oh.
What might happen is they fed it stuff.
Right.
If you feed ChatGPT things, it's going to take from it because it thinks that you want it to.
It thinks you gave it to it.
Yeah.
But actually someone else
Yeah.
did it.
So that could be happening, or it could just be doing that on its own. I don't know which one it is. I just don't think we should automatically pin ChatGPT for this. If that's what they're using, they didn't even say that. They might be using something else. It's probably ChatGPT, but we don't actually know.
Now would be a pretty good time to be like an anti-AI, like detection company.
Oh yeah, there's some spinning up.
Yeah, I bet there are.
And they're probably going to get some fairly lucrative contracts from like schools, government agencies, lots of stuff like that.
Yeah.
I could totally see it.
Man. New investment opportunity. Let's go. Oh, I thought he was investing. Hacking the mainframe.
Rage investing into these companies. But yeah, anyways, consequently, there is a massive surge in demand for AI text detection, as you were just mentioning, especially among educators, as I just mentioned.
Yeah.
Someone in the chat before the show was actually, I don't remember your name, I'm sorry. Someone in the chat before the show was talking about how they teach 8th grade U.S. history.
Ooh.
And they were talking about how they've warned other teachers at their school, and they're going to be teaching the kids in that class about ChatGPT because they see it as a valuable research tool. Because I was like, so you teach history. How did teaching them about ChatGPT possibly come up there? And they made an interesting argument. Yano, there we go. Yeah, it's Yano. They made an interesting argument of I'm teaching them how to research, and I'm not teaching them to just trust it immediately, but it's a step, right? So they can ask it questions, they can offboard from that into more specific searches, they can do whatever. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that actually does make sense. It's just
very cool.
But they had to warn the other teachers, right?
Yeah.
Because they're going to teach them that in that subject because it's super powerful tool in that subject. Especially because it's history, so it doesn't matter that it's not trained on recent stuff. But other classes might not be super stoked about it. It's interesting.
Right.
It's very interesting.
Coming back to what you had said about being adamant that ChatGPT should be a paid tool because when things are free, they inevitably turn to garbage. I read a really good article. I found it on pluralistic.net here. It's from Cory Doctorow. Anyway, I read it somewhere else, not here, but you should read it. It basically did a way better job of explaining that thing that you and I are always talking about, but never do a perfect job of explaining. How, how I'll refer to, in one of our pitches to creators for Floatplane early on,
premium comments,
we would basically say we are not the Silicon Valley model, or we're not. Our benefit is that we take a sustainable approach to building this platform rather than taking VC funding, which will inevitably become a problem at some point. I was never able to properly explain why that will inevitably become a problem. And so this article is called TikToks and Shitification. Oops, I missed my right button. Well, all right. Shitification. And basically talks about that cycle and how any new platform that is VC backed starts out by pleasing its users until it grows a big user base, then moves on to pleasing its partners, which helps it grow its revenues, then moves on to pleasing itself, which helps it enrich itself. And so, how I've talked a lot about how Amazon used to be great for shopping. My particular favorite feature was people who looked at this item usually bought these.
Yeah.
Well, that feature no longer exists because, as this article points out, Amazon has reached their end game where it is all about generating value for themselves, for their shareholders, where there is no benefit to having organic search results. There's no benefit to having good pricing. Everybody's already locked into Amazon. So they point out that out of the first 5 pages of results for cat bed, 50% of the results are sponsored because effectively buying placement is the only way to get exposure on Amazon now, because they moved past pleasing the customers, which is when we had features like that. Now they've moved past pleasing their partners.
Bad thing to do.
Yeah, exactly. Happy partner, happy life, right? They've moved past pleasing their partners, so they just essentially have them all bidding against each other because that's the only way they can survive, which means the pricing sucks because everybody has to absorb these exorbitant fees to participate on the platform. And they're just focused on money. And anyway, so it's talking about how TikTok is starting to enter its second stage of it's a really good article, guys.
Cool.
I'll link it in the chat. Go check it out. But it basically talks about how they have a button to boost creators, giving them a ton of views, and it's the equivalent of the Carney allowing one user to win the big teddy bear. So they walk around at the fair all day, so people think that it's possible to win the teddy bear. But then they have a button that makes it so the ball will pop out for everyone else, so they can just collect your money. Yeah, really, really, really good article. So I'll drop that in the chats while we move on. I forget what you were talking about, but good job.
Discussion question. When is it okay to use AI? What will the impact of BuzzFeed's decision be? What are the pros and cons of anyone being hypothetically able to compete with BuzzFeed's style of content using AI?
I mean, we're going to see. I'm not even going to try and speculate how this is going to play out, but it's going to be interesting. That's for sure.
Those are extremely difficult questions that I think could be discussed for many days, and I think there will genuinely be entire books based around individual questions that were in that whole line of questioning.
A Prime in Floatplane chat says, Amazon does this. Customers who viewed items in your browsing history also viewed, but that's not the one I'm talking about.
Didn't buy it.
There used to be one that was customers who viewed this item ultimately purchased these. So you could kind of rely on crowdsourcing the research. Now, that probably created sometimes undue momentum for certain SKUs. It might have made bad products or products that had been replaced by better ones stickier than they should have been. But man, every time I used it, I got a pretty good one.
Yeah.
If I didn't really care about getting exactly the right thing,
far enough. Yeah.
I wanted something that was 95%. It was the best.
I don't buy stuff off Amazon, but I do use Amazon. And I'll use Amazon sometimes for the frequently bought together thing because it's a nice way to find adapters and converters and stuff, I find. You can find the right thing to make that thing work along with the rest of the stuff that you might have because it will link it. And usually if it's said frequently bought together, they will actually work together, which is kind of nice.
Yep.
But yeah, then I go find it somewhere else and buy it there because I don't like Amazon.
Which is fair.
Yeah.
But then you might like them if they were still consumer first.
Yeah, most of my issues with them are about how they treat the people that work for them at low levels.
You mean the contractors that work for other companies that are not Amazon's problem?
Yeah, basically. What was I going to say? How they tend to just crush small businesses and stuff. I don't think they are good.
Right, but so you'll really enjoy this article because talking about how crushing small businesses by outcompeting them and then clawing it all back after is the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yep.